Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Illegal Festival Edition 15 Days, 21 Happenings. I am Ishmit Tenge and I will be your host this fine evening. And let me extend my warm welcome towards each and every one of you present in the house today. Today, we have an eminent personality amongst us who will be joining us on the topic society and governance. He is an entrepreneur and a design thinker. He co-founded I Volunteer, India Fellow Social Leadership Program and Social Entrepreneur Enterprise Incubator Unlimited Delhi. He has also started cashrelief.org, which is India's first pilot on unconditional wealth transfer. He has been a student of design thinking. He uses design thinking in his work and conducts design thinking learning events across the globe with organizations such as Mahindra Finance, Stanford University, Spark Civics Global Fund for Children, and ISEED IRME. These are some of the top organizations that our guest today has been working with. He is also the founding participant at Think, the Amsterdam School of Creative Leadership. He has completed his engineering from NIT Rourkela and MBA from IRMA Anand. He did his executive education at the prestigious Harvard Business School. Besides, he has also been an Ashoka Associate Fellow, TED Fellow, and Chevening India School, Gurukul Scholar. We have with us Mr. Rahul NAINWAL. Sir, I extend my heartiest welcome to you, and I welcome you to this session on behalf of Lovely Professional University.
Thanks, thank you, Schmidt. And if I'm not being cheesy, it's lovely to meet you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, today's topic that we have for discussion is society and governance. What would you like to open it with?
So I think I have set up a small presentation, and what I would like to do is take everybody through that presentation, and maybe kind of challenge the conventional thinking around way our society is kind of organized and the way we do things. So let me see if I can get the presentation on. Just a second. So
all right, ladies and gentlemen, just a few seconds and then we will be having...
I am a little tech unsavvy. Okay, so I just need some time to figure out ways. Okay. So there is this quote from Leo Tolstoy, and it basically says that I sit on a man's back, choking him, and make him. Just a second. Said I sit on a man's back, choking him and making him carry me, and yet assure myself and others that I'm very sorry for him, and wish to ease his lot by any means possible, except getting off his back. So if I, and there's a particular reason I'm starting this this talk with this this particular quote by Leo Tolstoy, because if you see around, whether you see the non-profit sector or you see the government or you see the corporates, and you would see that there are many instances of something like this right in front of our eyes. We have a country which has like so many laws, and not these laws to actually help us move forward, but actually sometimes to kind of pull us back. You look at the social sector, the sector that is really trying to alleviate poverty, in many ways in our country, and in some sense they are also kind of struggling. I mean, everybody is trying in this country to help the last man standing, the person who's really poor, who we call they live below poverty line, and all of that, and we still are not able to help them because somehow, knowingly or unknowingly, we are actually sitting on this person's back, and we are choking this person, and we are not letting them kind of set free. And I think this is really the central point that I'm trying to make, that if we are to look at our society, our governance, it has to have less of government, less of government and more of kind of governance, right? And also in the non-profit sector, less of management and administration and more of actually delivering value to the people who are actually on the ground. And so I was kind of wondering that why is it our country is so poor? I mean, every 15th August we say, oh, we've done 80, 82 years of independence and we've come so far, but it's still a really, really poor country. And is this, I mean, is the reason that, I mean, the way our society is organized, I mean, that there will always be poor people in the country because we're so many of them. And, it's a really, really, big country with like billions of people living. So it's virtually impossible to kind of lift everybody out of poverty. But that's kind of one that basically says that, okay, maybe everybody cannot be lifted out of poverty, but the country itself can actually grow, right? The country can, our per capita income can go up, our GDP can go up, and all those things can happen. So I kind of wonder, why is India poor? And is it poor because we have less resources, like we don't have enough of iron and steel, we don't have other things, we don't have oil, for instance. Yeah. But if you look at countries which are also as big as India, for instance, China, you look at maybe, or maybe the number to look at is not how many people you have, but you look at the population density, per capita, per square kilometer, or whatever is the unit, how many people are living in the country. You would find that a lot of countries which are even more populous than us. For instance, Singapore, I mean, per square meter, there are more people living in Singapore than in India. But it's an extremely rich country. So why are we poor? I mean, there are lots of countries like Nigeria, which have oil and other resources, but they are poor. So it's not that resources or population and everything makes people kind of a country rich or poor. And so this is some thought and some question that I want to ask each of you. When we go into the question answer session, we'll come back to this as to why we are poor. The second is that why a rich country is rich. Why is that an Indian can actually migrate to a country like the US or Europe and actually do really well, and create businesses from scratch, do really well for themselves, contribute to the GDP of the country that they go and kind of live in. So a lot of people might say that maybe rich countries are countries which were traditionally rich because of the colonial history, and that has really kind of multiplied, that has compounded, and that's why rich countries are rich. So this is something for us to kind of look at, that what makes some countries uniquely kind of more successful than others. What is there in their ecosystem? If we kind of take into account all the issues around colonialism and what the injustices in the past and all that, if we take all of that into account, we still will find that there are some reasons why rich countries are rich and poor countries are really poor. Other question that I have is that if not many of you were like around maybe in the 80s, but I was alive and kicking in the 80s, and you would always have these the Nadeem Shravans and the T series guys. They were always in arms with mafia, with Dawood Ibrahim and everybody else. So I kind of got curious, and I got to know about this article, which basically said that the way our country was financing industries, which basically we had set up these big banks, ICICI, IDBI, some of the government ones, and the mandate was that you fund industries. Okay, you give money to industries so that they can do well. However, somebody who was drafting these laws and drafting this policy forgot to mention that movie making is also an industry. So which essentially meant that if you wanted to make a movie, you cannot go and get a bank loan. And this was corrected later on, I think the 90s or early 2000. And then you see that since then there is no interference of mafia so much in Bollywood. You have standard corporate guys like Viacom, Reliance, the Netflix nows, those kind of people are actually raising money and are able to make movies. And so small policy change in a policy, whether it was done inadvertently or it was by purpose, that it excluded movies from the definition of industry, and we had all these things kind of happening. Likewise, closer home in the social sector, I don't know how many of you know that bamboo is a grass. Yeah. So a lot of villagers, tribals will actually go to the forest and cut grass, cut bamboo and bring it to their place and make variety of things out of it. However, this is illegal. You can't really cut bamboo, in our forest laws, because somehow somebody treated bamboo as a as a tree. Okay, so it's not. And then there was some change in that legislature, and it was converted back into grass. And bamboo is a grass. You cut it, it'll grow back. There's no worries. And since then, a lot of livelihoods tied to bamboos have been untied. Now people can actually collect bamboos and make a variety of things out of it. Like I mentioned, government interference in a small thing like whether you should cut bamboo or not was, set correct because a change in kind of legislation. So I think why I'm actually asking some of these questions, some provocative questions, some fairly commonsensical ones, is that I think one common link between my sense is that we are poor and other countries are doing well is that there is a lot of progressive policy action that happens in other countries. So for instance, let us say that you are a hawker, right? Or maybe you're a foodie, you like to cook food, and you want to set up a small food stall in Delhi or elsewhere. I mean, there is no clarity as to what are some of the rules and regulations you have to follow, where you have to go and apply for a license, what kind of license you have to get, and so on and so forth. So there is no clarity on, even if you want to start a small business of setting up, let's say, a momo stall or a pizza stall, or you want to set up a small eatery, and maybe on the wheels you want to make these in very good looking food trucks. Yeah, there is no clarity in policy as to how one can go about and do that. And then when that's not there, then it is open to all kinds of interpretation, all kinds of rent seeking. So for instance, if you were to ask anybody who runs this eatery on the road, they will have to pay hafta to the police, they will have to pay money to the municipal corporation, and just anybody who has authority over them or carries a danda will be able to extract money out of these guys. Yeah. And so my sense is that in other countries, I mean, I've been to a few countries, and so I can say with some experience that there is some clarity on how some of these things can be done. So the policy is very clear about what is allowed, what is not allowed. And what it basically then does is that it really opens this whole kind of bottleneck of human capital, the human potential that all of us have, right? For doing a good job, or starting a new company, or setting up a hawking place, or starting a movie, or cutting bamboo grass to do a variety of things that we want to do. That it just opens up our potential. Our potential then is kind of unlimited, and each one of us can actually then go ahead and pursue what we really want to pursue. So my sense is that the rich countries are rich, is because the way their society is organized, way their governance systems are organized, they really help each and every citizen of their country to unleash their human capital. Because that is what differentiates Singapore from us, from the US from us. In US, you can pretty much set up a food truck or set up Facebook very easily. It's not that you will have to go through lots of hoops. There is clarity in policy as to what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. If you want to set up a restaurant, these are the 10 things that you have to do. It's available on the net. You can go and apply for it, and you will get a license. And then you can legally run your business. There are hawking zones where you can go and hawk. There are no hawking zones where you can't go and set up a. So there is a lot of clarity in policy, and that leads to this unleashing of human capital that the citizen of that country. And unfortunately, our country doesn't have that clarity as of now. Our policies are fairly vague. Our laws are fairly complex. There is government in everywhere. There's very little kind of governance, and that really kind of pulls us back. So that was one central theme that I wanted to kind of talk about. That if our policy is clear, if our governance system is lean, fit, and fighting fit, and there is less of it, there is less of government in it, then maybe we can also gallop as other countries are doing around us and far away from us. So that's one point that I wanted to kind of share. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was that you must have heard of, if you live in this country, lots of poor people, right? What are the things we give to poor people? We give them old clothes, we give them medicines, we are happy to give them food. We are, non-profit organizations will be happy to build their capacity. The government is investing in a skilling program. They're very happy to provide them with trainings, but nobody gives free money to the poor. And this is the money that we collect on their behalf. Yeah, through the taxes that we collect. And the idea is that we will use this money to help these people, help poor actually improve their quality of life. But we do everything else. Yeah, but we don't give them money. And I used to, wonder why is that we don't give money to the poor. And I think I came to this conclusion that we don't trust them. We just think that poor are very different to us. They're illiterate, they're uninformed, they're not intelligent. If we give them money, they will somehow misuse it. Yeah. But nobody thinks that poor people have so little and they're still able to survive. Right? They don't know where the next meal is coming, but they're able to get that meal and are able to survive. And just that indicator shows that they're fairly intelligent. Yeah. Than us. They're a fairly kind of robust group. They're intelligent. They have very hardworking. They're industrious. It's opposite of everything else that we think about them. And they could be trustworthy also. So what I did was I actually gave money. Yeah. So I went out and I found a village in Udaipur district in rural area, and I gave money to. I found some 34 households and I gave a lot of money to them for free. And I told them this is free money. If you want to drink alcohol, you can drink alcohol. If you want to buy a motorcycle, you can do that. And actually some people did that. Somebody bought a motorcycle, somebody gave a whole alcohol party to people. It's your money, you can do what you want to do. And I was surprised with the results that kind of came in, So what I did is also called as cash transfer. And my idea was that when you give money to poor people, it gives them the agency. Agency is a fancy word for the power, the right to do whatever they want. So they have the right to do what they want to do with that money. Essentially, I was trying to see whether if you give money to people, will they use that money to help themselves, or will they just blow it out? And one of the central reason was that when we don't have money, and if you can think, I don't know how many of you have ever come across a point where you don't have money, or you are under a lot of stress. Yeah, when you're under a lot of stress, whether it is physical, mental, or being poor kind of stress, it just doesn't help you with make good decisions. You can't make good decisions on an empty stomach. That much all of us know, right? If you're hungry, we really can't make good decisions. We're just like our body is under tremendous stress. For instance, if I were to ask you do this question, right, 187 into 19, yeah, and or if I tell you to do it, with a gun to your head, my sense is, gun to your head, you will be very, very confused. You'll be under stress, and a lot of us will actually make a mistake when we are under pressure. On the contrary, some of us actually thrive when we are under pressure. However, most of us are not at our best form when we are under pressure, and that's why so many of us actually perform poorly in exams. And if you were to solve the same question paper when we are not in an exam kind of environment, we'll probably will do well. So stress makes a lot of challenges, and So I think the challenge then is if you give money to people for free or otherwise, then it just removes the stress from them, and they are more efficient in their decision making. See, earlier the challenge used to be, how do you identify poor people and how will you send them money? But thanks to Modi government's the Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile India stack, it is now very, very easy. You can send money to people because they have a bank account, they have a phone number. It's all done and at a very, very cheap rate. So that argument does not hold good. And the second is, I think this is something that I have to basically ask myself, and which is basically, we said that, in my role in the nonprofit organization, I have to go and talk to poor people and identify what they need. Yeah. And then tell them what they need and then give it to them. Okay. So it basically makes an assumption that poor actually don't know what is good for them. They need somebody from outside to tell them this is really good for you and then give it to them. So this is, at some level, is hypocrisy, right? Of course, I know that they know what is good for them. It's just that my job is tied to the fact that if I tell them what they need and I do this exercise with them, and I then maybe I'll get paid. Yeah. So there is some challenge in terms of why there is a middleware between us and the poor. Okay. So we did this in Udaipur, and I was telling you, I gave this much of money to people without any conditions. This was the kind of people who we were working with. They're very, very poor. And these were some of our learnings. Though a lot of people advise us that people are going to drink money and this, but none of that happened. People bought houses, they repaid their loans, they bought land, improved their homes, got water supply. It has really good short-term effect. People were able to start their businesses and all that. So the money didn't go to waste. That money was really, really put to good kind of use. And then we use the same thing during COVID. During COVID, a lot of migrants who were displaced, daily wages were not able to earn a living. So we said, okay, can we help them? Here also our thought was, see, we don't want to give rations. Yeah, because maybe I don't need ration. I mean, if I was a migrant worker, I already have ration. I need money, and I need something like, yeah. So, and the second thing we thought about was that, of course, somebody is giving money. I was giving money. I'm still a stranger to a person who is in need. And I'm thousands of kilometers away. So how will I know what they need? So how can I actually help them, even if I have the best intentions? Yeah, and the more fundamental question that I asked, and I would like you to ask yourself, that if you needed help, if you were like, God forbid, if you were in a situation where you needed support, like you were left without anything on the road or wherever you were, your family has nothing to eat, you are in a really difficult situation. If you needed help, would you rather choose yourself? Would you like to decide yourself, or would you like somebody else to decide for you? Would you like somebody else to decide what you should put in a bag, whether it should be ration, it should be rice, it should be sanitary pads, it should be milk for the baby, it should be vegetables, it should be meat, what should be there in a box? Yeah. So I think, like I said, donors don't really know, and everybody has very, very unique needs. More so in emergencies. Do they need old clothes? Do they need standardized ration kits? Or do they need money? Should we give them money so that they can decide for themselves? Of course, that seems like the most logical thing. Of course, some people will misuse this money. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that that we should not do it. Maybe a small percentage will actually misuse something like this. So our sense was that everybody has unique needs, and in emergencies is it becomes like really more clear. We spoke to people and they said, is it okay if we want to buy milk? This one gentleman who said, I've not been able to buy sanitary pads for my daughters, we don't have any money. And people wanted to buy medicines, but what kind of medicines really they knew. So we realized everybody has unique needs, and the only way to handle these unique needs is to actually give them money and let them decide for themselves. So we raised a lot of money, and we transferred close to 5 crores to about 30,000 families across India into their bank account. So this is what, and why I'm actually sharing all of this thing, because I think if you were to, and I will stop the monologue now, that if you were to look at, it seems like giving money to help people is the best way forward, right? And more so in emergencies and all that, because but nobody does that. Somehow there is a lack of trust between the giver and the receiver. Like the giver, the person who is donating the money, does not believe the person I'm giving this money to is going to be used to good. So what do they do then? They try and give rations, they try and give cooked foods, they try and give things which have no value to them, they give you old clothes and all of that, because we're so worried that people will misuse our help. Yeah. And I wonder, like, why do we expect that poor people, when we give them money, will be 100% efficient, right? Of course, if I give you 500 rupees and maybe you wasted 100 rupees out of it, but you put 400 rupees to good use, is that not a very good use? Yeah, because this is how I am also in my life. The money that I earn, I don't put everything into good use. I also use a sin product. People will smoke, people will buy a pizza and not eat it. I waste money on clothes and all that. Somehow, because I earn it, it seems like I had then the right to kind of do it whatever I want. But if I want to give it to somebody else, I want them to be 100% efficient. Yeah. And on top of it, I don't even trust that they will use it well. So I felt that the central theme in when I was told this topic of society and governance, I think one of the big challenges that is really stopping us is of course that there is an inherent lack of trust. Yeah. When people are in a position of when somebody is a giver and somebody is a taker, and that's why all our rules and laws and systems and everything are there to make sure that somebody is not going to take us for a ride. right? And that makes everything very, very bulky in our country. You know, our laws, the way our governance works, the way our systems and processes work, they're in there to ensure nobody, like people don't cheat you. That is making everything very, very voluminous, and that is slowing everybody down. It's slowing me down. As you will go and join, you know, and join the businesses, corporate sector, government sector, you would realize it is also slowing you down. Yeah, because this our society, somehow I think it seems like on the outside that we all work, you trust each other and we work on trust, but it seems like it's not. You know, it's not. Not everybody's. You know, people are. We are not working on trust, and we're just working on very complicated and old laws to make sure that nobody is trying to cheat us, and nobody can cheat us and get away and take advantage of the system. And then it has what we call as the law of I'm forgetting the name. Is basically it says that whatever you intend, it actually exactly the opposite happens. So the intent is that it becomes a fair place, level playing field for everybody with all these laws and processes and everything, but it doesn't, because there's some people who are able to take advantage of it, and the majority is not able to kind of, you know, get what they want. All their human capital is constrained, and that's why we are poor. Because we are poor, then it becomes like a self-fulfilling kind of a, you know, vicious cycle. We're poor, we have then poor governance systems. Poor governance systems that erodes further trust in the society. So we are in a kind of a vicious loop that is just pushing us to the ground. Otherwise, I don't think so. I mean, we keep on talking our country is such a great country with such heritage, such culture, such old civilization. We should not be taking, you know, 80-85 years to come out of poverty. We should have been there, you know, much before. And not just in terms of gross domestic product, but per capita income that every Indian gets in their pocket at the end of the day. So these were some like broad thoughts that I had, and now I'll kind of stop this monologue, and I'll be very happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, sir. That was quite an elaborate presentation, I must say. And definitely, it was very scintillating at the same time to understand the various concepts that you put forth and the various questions that you had in the particular presentation itself. So, if we look at the things that people have been saying in the chat box while you were presenting, one particular sentence that we have here is that someone thinks, according to his opinion, India is poor because of the thought process of the mindset that the individuals have in this country. What would be your take on it, sir?
I don't know. I mean, maybe there is some truth in this. That we have there is a thought process. The thing is that it's very, very difficult to kind of put a finger to what is wrong with the thought process. Difficult to measure it. However, what is easier to measure is that in Delhi, if you want to set up a food stall, you don't really know how to put up a food stall, right? You can't. Those processes are you know, really, really not very clear. So, of course, thoughts pull us down. If our thought process is that we don't, so we think of us as inferior, we don't think we can do much. If we think that we can't compete with others, if that is our thought process, of course, that's going to pull us down. But if there's a rule book which is not clear and that's thrown at us whenever we want to do something, then that also is like something that is making us really poor. I mean, imagine you. You know, I think this is an exercise you'll have to do. Like you'll have to go and try and start a small business, or for instance, you know, just try and see whether you can get a vehicle transferred in your name. Yeah. Why do we need such elaborate processes, right? Why? I mean, so for instance, there's an economist in Brazil, I think, who did some exercise in a favela in Brazil, and he said that one of the reasons why poor people are not able to, you know, come out of poverty, at least in that context, is that they don't have land, they don't have titles for the land that they own. Okay, because they don't have title for the land and the houses that they own in favela, they can't trade it, right? So they can't sell this house to somebody else. So they can't really unlock the capital which is attached to the place they live in, you know. And that's why they're almost destined to live in favela and live in poverty, because they have this capital which they can't really release, they can't liquidate it, and that's why they have problems. So his theory was that if we were to make sure that property rights were all made all digital, and everybody who was owning whatever was digital, people could actually go out and sell these things, raise capital, and then start businesses and other things, and come out of poverty. Okay, so they are more rich to us because they are not in kind of boundaries of society in some kind. What does it mean? I don't. So basically, you right. I think okay, I got it. So I think that's an interesting thought. I think I also kind of agree to what you are saying, Uday. So if you see in our society, this is so much of premium on actually getting a job, doing the right thing, going and studying. There is very little scope for creativity, doing things which are out of the box, or going on a different path, or failing, or trying and failing. Our society does not give us much leeway to fail, or to stop, or to think outside the box. And you're right. And that is one reason that why Indians are good at execution. Like you would find Indians, like, I don't have to tell you that now, with the Microsoft and the Googles, you would find some of the best executors, the managers are Indians, and they're doing extremely well. But you won't find a Zuckerberg who's Indian, because we are not, our mind, our society does not train us to defy rules, to question our adults, to question our parents, to question conventional thinking. And we are in too much of kind of follow the norm, follow the process, do the right thing, and all that. So I absolutely kind of agree with you. I think that's a nice way to put in that we have lots of boundaries, and in a lot of societies, these boundaries are not present. And if they are present, there are enough entrepreneurs, enough creators and thinkers who are happy to break these boundaries.
Absolutely, sir. So, if I am correct, what you're trying to imply is that in our country, individuals are more bound by the societal norms and the predefined notions that we carry forward. And sometimes, when there are creative ideas that come along and do not fit in the conventional types of the society, we kind of get scared to execute them.
Yeah. Because we don't accept failures. Yeah, we don't like failing, whether in exam or in life. We see failure is a bad thing.
Definitely, sir. But why do you think that this is the case that has been, happening in our country?
So one reason is that, to be fair, in our country, the cost of failure is very high. Na? So if you fail, then like you will fall to the ground. In rich countries, at least like this, the state will support them. So they have the social security. They'll be able to, again stand on their 2 feet. The second thing is that in these countries, failure is also celebrated. And what do I mean by that? It's not a stigma. Like you can go to a job and say, I did a startup for 5 years, and this is how I failed miserably, and I couldn't make money, or and it will not be seen as a black spot on your career. But if suppose you're an LPU student, right? You're supposed to clear your course in 3 years or 4 years, and you did 5. Okay. And even if you could tell people, I took 5 years because, here I was at LPU, I was doing this startup. So I took a break, and I was, people will not take that kindly. People will say, oh no. So one is that we don't have that much of social security. We can't take those kind of risks. At least we think we can't take those kind of risks. I mean, in reality is completely different. And the second is that failure is looked down upon, and it's not celebrated.
Definitely, sir. That is indeed one of the most troubled problems that we have in our country as of now. Well, sir, in your presentation, you spoke about handing over some amount to the poor people and how we are sort of skeptical towards it. And there is one such individual in our meeting today who has posed an opinion which says that what if we create a certain kind of a system where we provide them with a job that will eventually lead that money into their hand instead of just handing it out directly?
So that system already exists. I think the whole system of Skill India is about skilling people so that they can have a job, right? So that system already exists. Education is a system like that. Eventually, it'll give them a job. I think there are two challenges with this. So we don't have that many jobs, and I don't want to discourage students. Um, there are not enough jobs in the country, yeah. And in future there'll be less and less jobs because of automation. Essentially, um, if you look at, I think LPU is in Ludhiana, right? Is that correct?
It's in Jalandhar, sir.
It's in
It's
Jalandhar. Okay, so in these areas, Ludhiana more so, or in this belt, there are a lot of textile mills and things, woven mills and all that. At some point in time, they used to employ like thousands of people. Now the whole job is done by machines, by and only 25, 30 people on a shop floor. So we are not creating enough jobs. There are not enough jobs around. Automation is killing jobs. Anything that can be, any job or any process that can be written, the AI can be trained to do that job. So we can't rely really on jobs. We can rely on entrepreneurship. Yeah, we can rely on people starting their own businesses and all of that. Now, the people that I'm talking of are extremely poor people. Okay, so they can't get a loan. They can't even get a microfinance loan. So if we were to create a small level playing field for them, we'll have to give them this money to bring them to a point where they can then go into a Skill India job training program, or come to a college like yours, or take a proper business loan and start their businesses. So eventually they will have money in their hand because they will set up a business or will find something to do. But by the time they get there, it'll be interesting to kind of give them money, give them some kind of universal basic income, and see what happens.
rightly, sir. Sir, I would like to ask you that when we talk about the outer countries being a lot more richer than what we are right now, do you think that this factor also affects it, that since we have a lack of jobs in India, and more than the lack of jobs, there are certain jobs that aren't even available in our particular country, or there is not much scope for it, due to which individuals fly overseas to procure them.
Mhm.
So, do you think that there will ever be a way to solve this issue so that these individuals are able to procure equal amount of opportunities that they get there while being in their own country?
Yeah, so like I said, if our processes, our rules are easier, um, then why not? More and more people would be happy to live in the country. And I'm not talking about you and me. See, we when we go out of the country, we are doing what we call as an opportunist migration. There are better opportunities in the US or in the West than they are in India. But when a lot of laborers go to Dubai, a lot of taxi drivers go to Dubai, they go to places to work as in a restaurant, they're away from their families. Why are they away from their families and doing this? Because they want to send back some money home. There's no money at home. Why there's no money home? Because there's no enough opportunity. If our rules and processes were easier, so for instance, everybody could, if it was clear how you can set up a small business, more people will set up a small business. It'll be a legal business. They will employ more people. When they employ more people, people will spend. That money comes back into the system. So prosperity spreads like a virus, right? But all we need is we need simpler rules and kind of processes. We don't want people to come between, our citizens and what they're kind of potentially. India, on ease of doing business in India, India ranks really, really low. I mean, forget the rankings that are shown to us, because those are like window dressed. You just make one change. But try and start a business. I have started many businesses. Last time I was trying to open a bank account for a partnership firm. It took me 15 days, and I had to sign at least 100 pages of documents. So this is ease of doing business, for starters in India. If it takes such a long time to set up a small business and open a bank account, and this is when I know how to do these things. How would somebody else do it? Yeah. So I feel that that's our biggest, I mean, processes is one. Maybe investing in people is another. That if we don't see, our country will become rich when our people are more productive. Okay. And when can they be more productive? When they're able to make use of their human capital. Because a lot of us have what? We don't have father's capital, right? We are the capital. So whatever you're learning at LPU, either you will put it use in a company, or you will put it use in your own company, in your own startup. That is how you will unlock your human capital. But if there are going to be lots of hoops and a lot of processes in between you and your potential, then you will not get there. Eventually, you'll be tired. So how will the country grow if the individuals don't grow? Of course, we can have Mr. Ambani, making a lot of money and growing our GDP, but that's not going to help us, right? That has its limit. It can't, unless you'll be surprised in US. Most of the US GDP doesn't come from the Netflixes and the Facebook and the Googles. It comes with really tiny businesses which employ like 4 to 5 people and thousands and lakhs of them across the US. They really are the engine of US growth. And so somehow that growth engine is missing in our country. And my sense is that is because we have just too many rules and processes which just scare away any able-minded person who wants to do something.
Definitely, sir. These challenges surely do exist in our country at the present moment, but hopefully, we hope that they shorten out in the coming period, and we get to see a little eased out method of doing things, of establishing businesses or any small startup for that matter. So, sir, there is one question that we have in our chat today, which says, "Can we create more digital jobs in response to the unemployment situation?"
But see, the digital jobs can only be accessed by people who are literate and have digital literacy. I'm talking about 300 to 400 million poor people in this country who basically work as laborers, right? Who currently are either using Manrega or sitting at home or have to migrate to cities to digital jobs. There'll be a limit to how many digital jobs you can create. See, we need a mass scale manufacturing movement in this country. Small scale entrepreneurs, setting up manufacturing units. Maybe some of them will set up digital, manufacturing units, creating content and all of that. But we need places which will employ not just 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, a million people. We need places which will employ 300, 400 million people. Our youth that is like really waiting to get jobs, and jobs which are not just daily wage jobs. Jobs I'll give them good 15, 20,000 rupees so that they can save, they can spend, and they can get the wheels of the economy moving.
Definitely. So, this was quite an interesting session, and the interaction too was quite informative. So, really, thank you so much for that. I would now like to pose the final question to you for today's evening, which is, what thought would you like to leave all the people who have joined in today with?
I think just one simple thought. I think challenge the status quo in our country. Wherever you see status quo, whether you see it in where you're studying, you see it in outside, you see where you'll be working in future. If you challenge the status quo, I feel that something good will kind of come out of it. You will make the country, you will make yourself move forward. Because my sense is that the status quo of the governance and the societal system that we see in our country, there are not enough people who are trying to challenge that. There's some. So I would suggest if each one of us can challenge whatever status quo we see and see, okay, why does, like the questions that I'm asking, why does this happen? Why are we doing things the way we are doing it? And then maybe, we'll all move forward.
Definitely. So the questions that you posed today is truly something that every individual needs to ponder upon and is the need of the hour right now. I extend warm gratitude towards you on behalf of Lovely Professional University for joining in with us today. It was truly an honor to have a session with you.
No, it was a pleasure to kind of speak to you guys. I mean, all these interactions also helped me kind of clear my own thought process, and so I really enjoyed it. And I think really interesting questions that all of you asked. And so thanks so much. Thanks, Ishmeet, and thanks, Sanjay, for organizing this. Okay, take care and have a very good evening.
Thank you so much, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, with this, we come to the end of yet another episode of Illegal Festival India, organized by Lovely Professional University. We will be back with yet another guest, yet another exciting interaction. Till then, stay home, stay safe, take care, and keep tuning in when we come up with new videos. Thank you so much. This is your host, Ishmeet Thenge, officially signing off.
Thank you.